It's fine. No, they got.
All right, good afternoon. How is everybody? Everybody good? All right, everybody have all your relatives still? All kids accounted for? Things like that? And it's pretty rare that we lose anybody. Most people turn up in about 3 days. But so far, so good. Well, folks, welcome to Alligator Alley this afternoon. My name is Wes. I'll be out here feeding alligators. I'm going to do my best alligator whispering to convince some of these fellows to come over here, smash a few things, and send everybody home as traumatized as possible. If I can't make you quit swimming, nobody can. But it is crazy weather today. It might rain. It's probably going to rain, but I can guarantee you it's not going to snow. But we can go there. But I'm just going to start ringing the dinner bell, see who we can get cracking. Anytime an alligator sneaks up on me, if you think I don't see it, just say, Wes, there's an alligator right behind you. I appreciate that. So, all right. Without any further delay, let's see what we can get cracking. Very high-tech way to call an alligator. If you're curious about the goats over there, this is not Jurassic Park, although that would be cool. That's what I call my redneck landscaping. I mean, you don't have enough time to cut grass, just get you a handful of goats. Now, banging on the cooler, I'll give you a little kind of breakdown of why we do that. Alligators they're association animals, so they associate the times, the places, the sounds. They see color like we do, but you'll notice I'm the only guy with a cooler, so what's up, Jumper? A few raps on the cooler, that lets them know what is about to transpire, because at the end of the day, to be such large animals, their brain capacity is actually very small. So an alligator's brain is not much bigger than about half of your thumb, but their stomach is as big as a 55-gallon barrel. So you can kind of guess what they think about most of the time, except this time of year, which has them moving a little slow, which we'll go into that in just a minute. Now, on this side of the fence, there are 300 adults. Most of them are wild alligators. They are what are called nuisance alligators, so they're here for specific purposes and reasons, which means they came from creeks, lakes, rivers, swamps, and bayous. It is now something, what's up, Prince Eric, that we really call waterfront property, so the alligator loses out. But if they are a fortunate alligator, like my old buddy Prince Eric there, he's going to get to live out his days eating pork chops, chasing me around. It's a pretty good life. And he's a pretty old fellow. We know that in the wild they live about 50 years. Prince Eric is probably getting real close to that. However, in captivity, they can live much longer. So the potential, I got some big guys coming down the front. The potential for them to live, mid-70s here would be quite available, and they're going to live longer here for a couple. Nobody told me that alligator was I'm just kidding. They're going to live longer here for a couple reasons. First of all is food. Now, we feed one of the most aggravating animals on the planet, known as the feral pig. We have a very bad problem with wild feral pigs in South Alabama. So if you have any type of agricultural land or any timber land or anything like that, you're going to have pigs, and your job is to maintain a vigilance on that. So we have an endless food supply of pork. So if you're having a barbecue this Memorial weekend, OS can hook you up with a deal. Now, the other resource, which is very important this time of year, and that's going to be, if you're a big alligator, how many girlfriends you have. So, in the wild, females can be in short supply. So if you're a big guy, and maybe, you're maintaining your dominant force over this nice big lake, there may not be many girls, but there may be some other big fellas, and so you're going to have to fight to impress the ladies. Now here we have a whole lot of girls, and so we can take out a lot of that overall competition. So taking out the competition cuts down on injuries, cuts down on stress. So basically here, you get to lay around, you get old, you get fat, it's a pretty good life. So it's kind of like alligator heaven. So that's why I got like Prince Eric there, who would normally be on his way out or already deceased, because he no longer really has any teeth whatsoever. But here, like I say, life's good, pork chops every day, girls everywhere. So again, those two resources can really extend their life. We can factor in, vet treatment and other things like that, but for the most part, girls and food keep everybody happy. Now, if you're wondering why, I don't have 300 up here chasing me around, it's because alligators really don't have to eat every day. If you get down to the true mechanics, you can tell he's a wild alligator. The mechanics of what alligators need as far as maintenance, it's very, very minimal. In the wild, alligators eat about once a month. Now, they can do that because their body heat comes from the environment, so they're not like us. They don't have to constantly take in calories. Two, their stomach capacity is absolutely massive. So if you're a big alligator and you want to eat a fifth of what you weigh, they can do it. So you factor in some of our heavy hitters out here, these guys that are 900, 1,000 pounds. If they caught a whole deer or a pig, or like 2 third graders, they could eat that and then for the rest of the year do absolutely nothing. And finally, when we think of the human body as being a fine-tuned, efficient machine, but let's face it, we are probably one of the least efficient animals on the planet. Because if I were to give you one of these pork chops or ribs, the human body can metabolize protein at about a whopping 2%, 0.2. That alligator can take this same rack of ribs and actually digest it at over 70%. So they're extremely efficient animals is how they metabolize protein. So they can also go very extended periods without food. It's not uncommon if an alligator had an injury or some other mitigating circumstance that they could go a year and a half, 18 months with no food. Now, would that be a happy alligator? Absolutely not. But they can pull it off. Now, what's up, Roger? This time of year that we are in right now I know it doesn't look really active, but it is. We are in the time of year which is going to give us baby alligators here in the fall. So we commonly just call that alligator wrestling season, if you know what I mean. If you are a large male of any status whatsoever, right now you could really care less about what's going on with Old West. Food is so far off of your radar that, again, they just really don't focus on it whatsoever. They're focused on A, hanging out with the girls, and B, defending their territory. So right now, a lot of these bigger males, if I go to them and throw something at them, they'll eat. They're not going to physically leave what they have going on to come look for me. Now, first of all, ladies, you'll be happy to know that you pick which fella you like. Woohoo. You pick, a very typically large, dominant, really in good shape fellas. Now, some of you ladies were alligators, you made good choices. The rest of you, maybe not. But what happens is then, if you are a large male of any social status whatsoever, again, you just defend your territory and all the girls hang out with you and life is good. Now, what's going to happen in about another 3 weeks, these females will then transition into what we call nesting season. So, they will pick a lovely spot. There you go, Prince Eric. Fetch. They will construct a nest, which an alligator nest is not anything extraordinary. It is essentially a compost heap. So that female alligator rakes all that mud and vegetation in a pile. She deposits around 30 to 35 eggs. Occasionally, it will be higher. It's not uncommon for us to have a clutch of eggs exceed 50. The largest I have ever seen was 72. That's a whole lot of eggs. Her job then is to maintain a protective vigilance over that nest. So for that 65, sometimes 70, 72 days it takes for those babies to hatch, she will not venture out in search of food. At that time, though, that's when all these big fellas that have been, kind of not getting along with each other over the past few weeks, they all show up to eat and things get kind of hectic. But when the babies hatch, again, that female alligator, her job is not done. She will still provide, a protective barrier for those hatchlings. Now, in the wild, only about 10% of those babies survive the first year because everything, there's one of my girls right there, everything in the wild eats baby alligators. How can they eat baby alligators? Well, first of all, they're quite small. They're only about 7.5 inches long. So they get eaten by birds, they get eaten by large turtles, they get eaten by fish, but finally, they get eaten by other alligators. Male alligators do not provide, like I say, any security whatsoever. They don't help with anything. Their job is basically to eat as many babies as they would encounter. And I know that sounds kind of cruel and crazy, but again, you're dealing with a prehistoric animal with that tiny brain that says, one day these kids are going to grow up. They're going to be a future resource competitor, so why not take care of it now? So, really, sweetheart, she's like, that's a long walk. So, only, again, about 10%, what's up, Shorty, will survive that first year. And as far as when you see an alligator, exceeding 13 feet and above, which is at the maximum size for the species, the percentage that reach that size would be so low that I would buy a lottery ticket. You'd be better off. All right, what's up, Shorty? Now, this is where an alligator makes his living, is right here at the water's edge. Now, first of all, are they fast on land? Sure. Can alligators run, 12, 13, 14 miles per hour? Yes. Can I run that fast? No. But the good thing is I have 2 legs and I am highly maneuverable, but they make their living, in the water or at the water's edge. So their speed on land is designed strictly to retreat and get away from something, because what makes them such a formidable predator is they are extremely streamlined. Oh, there's old Scraggles coming over. Come on, Scraggles, you hadn't been over in a couple weeks. All the muscles that operate their jaws set off to the side and underneath. So you can take an alligator like old Scraggles coming over. Scraggles is over 13 feet. He's a big boy. Scraggles could ease up in water about knee deep. You'd never know he'd have an inkling in the world. That powerful tail would give him one quick lunge about half his body length. Then the trouble would start, because those extremely powerful jaws would engage said creature, and then he just used his 700-pound frame to drag you back into the water. So when an alligator is on land, every capability that he has is completely useless. So right here at the water's edge, again, that's where they do what they do. Again, most animals come along, they think, well, that's a log, that's a mud bank. They don't pay any attention until it is unfortunately too late. Come on, Scraggles, get over here, old man. I said, Scraggles, he's another one of these very, very old fellows. Fetch, good boy. He's pretty fun to play fetch with. He just doesn't like to return things. Now, when we talk about, well, how strong is an alligator's bite? Well, it's based on size. That little girl that's on the bank with me at the moment, she's about 6.5 feet. She probably weighs about 60 pounds. Unless you watch Swamp People, that's 12 feet and 1,000 pounds. They're good at math. But an alligator that size has about a 400 to 500 pound bite force. Now, arms and legs on people break about 450. So if that alligator break my arm or leg, probably not one of these guns. But if she were to bite me with the hand or the foot, I would have a technical difficulty arise. But when we get into what I like to call big alligator status, I like to say big is 10 feet. If you're 10 feet, you can handle yourself in any capacity. You don't really have to worry about a whole lot unless it is a much larger alligator. So at 10 feet, that bite force jumps way up there. Good catch. So 10 feet, they're going to bite about 2,000 pounds of force. Now we're talking force, not PSI or pounds per square inch. And the real difference, the PSI term really gets overused. So now you take a pen and sign a piece of paper. The tip of that ballpoint pen is about 2,000 PSI or pounds per square inch. Actual bite force is like weight. So old Prince Eric over there, biting you would be like if we took whatever car you arrived in, we lifted it about 2 feet off the ground, and we just dropped said car on you. Now, if that happens, I'm real sorry. Hopefully it won't. But you can take some comfort in knowing alligators are not built for endurance. They're an anaerobic animal, so they build up lactic acid really quick. They can't engage in long, drawn-out battles. So as powerful as that bite is, it can only be sustained for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, the alligator will let you go. You can continue your swim, and life is good. Because if you swim in fresh water down here, 2 things I'll tell you. 1, you're swimming with alligators, and 2, you're swimming with a whole bunch of them. But they generally leave us alone, which is a good thing. Now, if you do like really, really big numbers, though, we can talk about PSI. We can take my man, old Captain Crunch, in the back of the swamp. His bite was 2,982 pounds of force, which is the strongest alligator bite that has ever been recorded. In a PSI format, or pounds per square inch, that breaks down to 360,000 PSI. Alligators do not break things. Bones just essentially explode on contact, because at the end of the day, an alligator's teeth are not sharp. They're essentially dull, blunt objects. While you're down here on vacation, you'd love to know that you're swimming down there at the old Gulf of America with the largest predatory fish on the planet. You take a white shark weighing 1,500 pounds, his bite force is minimal. It's barely 500 pounds, but because their teeth are like a serrated steak knife, they can just bite off pieces and tear things apart. Alligators have to crush things and basically swallow them whole. So again, be a much smaller animal, but a much more powerful bite. And the amazing part is their bite force being such that it is, does put a tremendous amount of stress on their teeth. However, they've got a really, really cool design that their teeth will actually break and shear, kind of like your tires on your car wear. So their teeth are not like ours. There's no root base. And so if an alligator breaks a tooth, as long as he does not, or she, does not damage said tooth socket, they will constantly regenerate teeth. So like old Prince Eric over there that just went under, he's such an old fellow. He's done his share of battles throughout his 40 plus years. He is not going to get any more teeth. So in the wild, he would be at a great disadvantage because he would not be able to defend himself. He would have issues catching prey. But because he's here, he still gets to eat whenever, as much as he wants. So again, that's another one of those ways we can extend their life. All right, Scraggles, let me give you this. Scraggles is he's old, kind of lazy. Good boy. See if he'll break that bone for us, or you're going to just swallow it whole. They have so much hydrochloric acid they produce in their stomach that, this pig leg, once it's swallowed, will be dissolved in a pretty short period of time. The ideal 100% fantastic favorite temperature to an alligator, and this is going to be quite random, is 86 degrees. The closer we get to 86 degrees, the more activity we get. So when it gets really hot, like it will here pretty soon in the next couple of weeks, they'll also get pretty lethargic and lazy then. But, oh, there's my man Chubbs showing up. What's up, Chubbs? Chubbs loves to try to air it out and eat me. Let's see if I can get him up on the bank. Come on. Come on, Chubbs. You can do it. Push. He's like, I'll get up there in a minute. Hey, Chubbs is on the Swim Slow program. Good boy. All right. Now, Chubbs, he is a big alligator. He's about 11 and a half feet. However, he does not make it in the top 40 out here as far as size. In order to be in the top 2, you got to knock down 14. In order to be in the next dozen, you got to be at least 13. After that, there's about another 30 that are over 12. So Chubbs more than likely will probably not get any bigger just because, genetics, nutrition, various other things that, but he still is a big alligator. He just is not a big alligator here. And I've got a few more pieces. There's Miss Patty, one of my girls. What's up, Miss Patty? The external difference amongst males and females is that there actually is none. So males do not look any different than the females. However, ladies, you're not going to reach the size that a male will. So if a female reaches 10 feet, that's actually a small male right there. That's actually really good. 11 feet, probably not going to happen. There's always been rumors and things floating around that so-and-so found an 11-foot female. No one has ever actually produced one. So if you see an alligator over 11 feet, there's a really good chance it's going to be a male. Whereas males, again, they can exceed 13, maxing at around 14. So as you go down through the swamp today, you'll see some really, really big fellas hanging around. You can take some consideration that those real big guys, again, those are the males. And actually, one of my top 2 fellas is an alligator named Big Easy, who is just right down here on the left, kind of close to the fence. Now, I've got this last big posterior section of this pig. I'm going to give one of them the old Scraggles over here. See if he'll probably just gulp it down. Not very exciting. There you go, Scraggle. Good boy. Like I say, he's gentle as a lamb. Real sweet alligator. And then I'll give this last rib section to old Chubbs over here. Here's JW coming in hot, but you're late, JW. Come on, Chubbs, air it out. You can do it. He's like, I know, just give me a minute. And he can get out of here a lot faster if he wants to. Good boy. Good boy. Oh, what's up, J-Dub? You're a little bit late. Again, these big fellas don't necessarily get along with each other this time of year, but I let them sort it out and try to stay out of the middle. All right, well, when I start to run low on pig parts, folks, it's a good idea for me to get ready to run out of here. That does not mean all the fun, excitement, and games are over. To my left, we've got Miss Sherry over here doing alligator encounters. Everybody gets a chance to hold an alligator. If you don't want to, tough, you kind of have to. Off to the right over there, we've got Miss Raven and Rain over there wrangling snakes. So if you like snakes, you want to go over there. I stay away from snakes, they're dangerous, in my opinion. And then again, here in about 45 minutes, my man Bob, old Tater, will be feeding in the very back of the swamp down there. He usually has some more heavy hitters show up just because they don't have to go near as far. Or if you're going to hang out and you want to get rid of one of your relatives, we can discuss that here in just a minute once I take this mic off. But other than that, folks, y'all be safe in this weather today. A lot of traffic on the roads, and everybody have a safe Memorial weekend. Thank you very much. God bless America. Y'all have a great day. Fetch. I'll have to go get